Players Only Halftime Report presented by American Express. Now, usually we don't come in with highlights of the losing team, but the Lakers have been making a run with a few highlights.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Don't look at them. Don't you look at them.
No, don't look at them.
Don't look at them.
Don't stand over them. Yeah.
Where's Khalifa looking?
You got beads at the end.
Khalifa.
I see you with the beads.
You know. Welcome to Players Only. I'm Chris Webber. We got Shaq, Candace Parker, and my man VD. So what's going on, guys? When you look at the first half of this game, actually we can look at some of these plays. When you see a young team like the Lakers and they don't have LeBron James there, Candace, and you see the start of a game like this, if you're the coach or a teammate, what do you say to your players, and why is this going on?
Well, this looks like a team that hasn't had a ball handler with them. I mean, Rajon Rondo missed time. Lonzo Ball's out with an ankle injury. LeBron's been out for 16 games. So when the head of your offense has been out, you know, you're going to turn the ball over. But they were just giving the ball away.
I'd have to disagree with my good friend Candace. This right here is just a lack of focus, because after we get rid of these highlights, we're going to show highlights when they start focusing, they start making the plays.
No,
we're all professional. We all can play. And all coaches say the same thing. You guys are just not, listen, you're playing against the 76ers. LeBron's not out. Some of these guys should be auditioning, because when they come back, they're going to have to start tightening it up. A trade might be made, you know, so guys need to start auditioning and playing out. That right there was just a lack of focus. First play of the game, you can't turn it over.
I wanted to say, like, could it be the lack of focus, could that be because of all the stuff that we're hearing today, right?
Right.
With, you know, the Anthony Davis trade rumors and, you know, them getting off to a slow start. When you have a young team like that, usually they're in their head, right?
Because they think they're going to be traded.
Yeah, because like you showing up to the
that's
game,
why you're supposed to step up.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so I'm next.
Yeah, you got to step
No,
up.
that's not the way you start. But I think as they got into the flow, they kind of, you know, when you start playing, you kind of lose that mentality. You got to get back to playing basketball.
But could it also be that the ball's in the wrong people's hands? I mean, you see Josh Hart with the ball in his hands trying to make plays, as opposed to, you know, these guys are used to having made finishing plays and not having to make them.
I mean, but they're down, they're playing in L.A., and we all know how the L.A. fans are. They're getting back in the game right there. Mike Penberthy with the two-handed jam.
They're
starting to come up, and they're a little bit more focused.
Let me ask you something,
with great
Shaq.
energy.
Shaq, you played in two cities that were temptations for teammates, and that was Miami and the Lakers. Did the great Lakers team ever say, this team is coming in tonight, or did you say, this team is coming in tonight? I know that they went out last night. We need to start early and get off to a 10-point lead, because then they won't come back. Or in Miami, both places temptations for players.
It also depends on your plan. When you're playing against a great team that really has championship aspirations, like you guys never went out. So like we would definitely worry about y'all. But the young teams, we know they was going out. You know how I knew? When I went out, I saw. So I knew who was out and who wasn't out. And you know, the Lakers again, they were not mentally ready. And you know, once the crowd started getting into the game and LeBron started talking, and, you know, making faces and stuff like that, their concentration and their focus was a little bit better, and they're starting to get back in the game. But, you know, Philly cannot lose this game today.
Yeah.
Against the LeBron-less Lakers, you got to get that win.
See, Webb, you're not going to put Cleveland in that mix of
going out late at night?
No? Nobody went out in
Cleveland? They went to the movies.
Okay, my bad.
Coaches love Cleveland. Like, I see a 6 o'clock practice. They're like, all right.
You go out in Cleveland, go right to the airport.
Listen, I was living in Cleveland.
Sorry, Cleveland.
Went out 3 times and I didn't see nothing. They ain't even had no hookah bar.
Did you see them midgets? They had things called midgets in Cleveland.
What's that?
They like a million gnats. It was like a million gnats just hanging on buildings. That was the most interesting thing I seen in school. Midgets.
He do look like Wiz.
Yeah, he look like Tiger too.
Tiger with the dunk.
A little bit with him.
He do look like Wiz.
Oh man. We'll be back
Cut it up, ain't you, boy?
on the American Express halftime report. We'll tell you who more people look like. We know all their twins.
I've never seen you out when these in LA.
Welcome back to Players Only, Mr. Vegas. I hope you are listening, GA. Matter of fact, I know you are. I just want to throw a couple things out to you, GA. Barry Davis. Hold on, GA.
We got a button.
Yeah, hold on. Barry Davis said you look like the black man on the penny that got rejected. Barry Davis said you cut your suit coat out of a car of an old pimp Cadillac.
And Candace said you look like a Rick James backup singer. Give it to me, baby. Give it to me, baby.
Hey, Jimmy, why you laughing so hard, Jimmy?
wait a minute, Candace. I know C. Webb that caught a few comments tonight.
Oh, they've been killing me. That's why I'm glad they killing you, because Candace said you're trying to join the NFL Hall of Fame.
Hey, he got that pimp cushion. He got that pimp cushion jacket.
Is that velvet?
Hey, you have to have left this to me, and it will.
Golden ticket. Thank you for wearing that outfit, GA. You've let me get away with this turtleneck, and I'm hot in the studio.
Hey, GA, don't let him talk you out of that, dog. Bring that one
coat
out.
off.
I ain't worried about
Just next time, don't do the red pinstripes
I got
with
a
it.
maroon one next
And wear
week.
that vest. You know it's a vest with that.
I ain't wearing a vest this time. I'm going to have a maroon one
You
next
look like
week.
a gold sugar cane.
Raider Tip-Off Show, and welcome back. Players only, baby. That's right. We're in the house on TNT. Now, Anthony Davis, he may not be in New Orleans much longer. We're going to talk about that in a second. But James Harden, he definitely will be in the house in Houston. And can he get 40 again tonight? 40-piece. That's right. We got New Orleans and Houston next on TNT. What's up, everybody? Welcome back, welcome back. That's right, players only. We're here. We got the same faces and some new additions, but if you don't know the man to my right, then you don't know basketball. That's right. That's the big Shaq, the big everything, cactus, all that stuff, you know him. We got California, LA's finest to be exact, when we talk about Baron Davis. And we finally got some class up on the set.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? And some game. We had to get our girl. I wasn't talking about you, BD.
No, I was saying thank you.
I thought you were saying you was in class.
Sure.
Okay, we both in agreement that
Yes.
the great Candace Parker, we welcome you to the set. Thank you for being here with us. We appreciate you. And, you know, let's get right into it. Shaq, you know, your time in Orlando, you were a free agent, or you were coming up free agency, and you didn't go back to Orlando. You understand sort of what Anthony Davis is going through, not that you asked to be traded. Can you give us a little insight on what you think he's going through, whether you think it was the right move for him to ask to leave, and what do you think he'll go through if he doesn't have the trade for the rest of the season?
Well, we all know basketball, and we all know the people that surround him. He had an agent. He's one of those players like we were, really didn't need an agent. We're going to get the max deal regardless. But you had to know and understand that when he signed with Rich Paul and Clutch Sports, knew this was going to happen. You know, he's the type of player who's made a name for himself. He probably wants to play in a big market, and his agent's best friend plays in one of the biggest markets in LA. So we knew this was going to happen. I thought it was going to be done a little bit more quietly, but you know, he's already mentioned that he's not going to sign that 5 for $240. So he said, "Hey, I want to be traded." So now the ball's in the court of the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah, you can see what
we'll see what happens.
You can see what he's done here, Shaq. 7 years in the league. This year, he's number 2 in scoring. He's top at blocks, and kind of see just his list. And you and I were talking, Candace, before the game, and you had a little different perspective as far as we were just talking about players and asking out. What do you feel of the situation with AD?
Well, I'm all for him saying that he's not going to re-sign with the Pelicans. That's being upfront and being honest. But where it's kind of gray area is asking to be traded in the middle of the season, you know, a week or so before the trade deadline. And I just think from a teammate's perspective, you heard Drew Holiday say, I came here
90%.
for 90%
yeah.
for Anthony Davis. And so just to kind of give that vibe in the middle of the season as a leader of a franchise, that's a tough situation.
And BD, of course I understand Anthony Davis, but if I'm New Orleans, I'm like, we all about to lose. I ain't trading nobody. I'm gonna wait to get what I want. What do you think? How do you think the situation gonna play out? What do you see with the situation?
I think New Orleans needs to think about New Orleans and start to think about their future, right? You know, here you have a guy who, he ain't coming back. You know, let's face the facts, he's not coming back. You don't have enough with him to keep building, so you should blow it up, get the best offer out there, get some draft picks. The Lakers have great players and talent. You got Boston out there. Everybody's throwing their best at you. Look, assess, take the best offer, and let that man go and do what he got to do.
Let me leave this on the table for you guys. Now, we've been in the league a long time around basketball. Anthony Davis got fined $50,000 for his public trade demand. Have y'all ever heard of a player getting fined for saying he wanted to go to another team?
No, I've heard that.
No, me either. So we did a little research. We had Underdog. Rudy Fernandez I really don't know who that is. I'm
Yeah, play for the
Rudy
Blazers. He played
Fernandez,
for the
come
Blazers.
on.
He played for the Blazers.
Blazers.
I got to
Does he still play?
I got to see a picture.
Huh?
Does he still play?
I mean, it depends on what he say.
See, no, he got fined. And then the other was our boy Nate Robinson. Nate, I just
Okay.
called
Oh, yeah,
you.
Big
Pick up
Nate.
the
What's up,
phone.
Big Nate?
I was about to ask Nate
Big
why he
Nate.
got fined. Now, you're telling me, out of all that we've heard, that these are the two names that got fined, y'all?
Tampering. I think the reason why he got fined is the whole, like, you know, he's a superstar in the league. Here they come with the tampering stuff, and so he's just adding fuel to the fire. You know what I mean? So the league, you know, the league.
But
gotta
being
have some
players,
type-
I could call you and be like, let's hook up. I mean, if we're players, how can
I'm not saying it's wrong. He should say whatever he wants. You
Right.
know what I mean? But I've never seen nothing like this.
And again, you had to know when he signed with Rich Paul, this was coming.
Yeah.
Everybody knew it was coming.
I agree. The play was totally telegraphed on that side.
From a franchise standpoint, like in terms of trying to attract other free agents, you're going to file an investigation against one of your players?
No, it sounds
I mean,
like New Orleans is not happy with
that's
the
what I
situation.
mean. And
Oh,
so
the
it's like,
team fined him.
Well, the team has to launch an
team launched
investigation.
an investigation.
And then they lost an investigation,
I
and
mean,
that man.
$50,000 ain't worth it. You know what I mean? They just they need to
keep that money.
They need to just
Yeah.
go on and make some trades,
Yeah.
get some real
Okay,
money.
but I have a question.
You know.
I have a question.
Yeah.
5-240. You can't get that nowhere else. Would you want to go and play somewhere else, or do you want to take that?
See what?
5-240?
What did
I
you
stayed in
say?
Sacramento for much less. I definitely 5 for 240.
I'm staying.
But the thing
staying.
is, too, Shaq, the basketball teams, the shoe companies are paying you more than ever now. And so it seems like a lot of players are using that to rely on the fact they can make that up.
Forget making it up.
5-240.
I'm trying to make it when it comes.
Yeah.
And 240 in New Orleans is a lot different than
Yeah, but
240 in LA, as
Exactly.
we know very
A
well.
whole lot different. 240 in LA is 120. Trust
So
me.
it's pretty much a
Like, what,
consensus.
yeah, but
might be
what's-
less than
yeah,
that.
But still, I'd rather have 120 and live in LA.
Nah.
Oh, you from LA. Oh, get out
talking
anyway.
about-
Oh, who gonna win the Super
Tell
Bowl?
him.
Who gonna win the Super
The
Bowl?
Rams, dog. What you
Oh,
think?
my
Oh,
God.
you're one of those.
This guy, yeah.
Are you on the?
He's like
That's
in New
my
York. He
son's
has like
favorite
three
team.
Are you on the?
Oh, so now it's your son's favorite team, so
son
you got to
lives
root
in
for
LA,
your son. Anyway, check it out. As we go to break, All-Star Weekend is coming up, and here's a look at the Friday Rising Stars roster. Now, it's presented by Mountain Dew Ice. Now, first we have the World Team, and let me see. I know all those guys on that team. Lauri Markkanen, one of our favorite players. You know what Doncic could do. Aiden, he's from the Bahamas. Ben Simmons, he is from, where's Ben Simmons from? Australia. Yeah, there we go. And, hey, BD, you know my man from Brooklyn's name right there?
Yeah, his name is Rudas Kukruz.
Yeah, I had to ask because I didn't know. It's Rodot. Dang, you know how they spelled it? I can't even say it. Anyway, let me go to the next one. I can't even read
that's
it.
my
I
squad
spelled it
right
out
there.
myself. The USA, you got De'Aaron Fox. Who you like seeing on this roster, BD?
All of them. De'Aaron Fox, Tatum, Kuz, Trae Young.
I'm going to go with my guy,
Donovan
De'Aaron Fox. Too fast for everybody else.
Man.
I'm gonna go with Jason Tatum.
Okay.
Stop.
Got my young boy Bagley. Wow, we smoking.
How about the Kings and the Brooklyn Nets have two players for each team, and the Lakers? When you look at Kuzma and Alonzo Ball, we're gonna love checking out that game. What's up, Jaren Jackson? I played with your pops. He was a hog. Don't you be a hog like him. We'll be back. No, I'm just messing. What's up, Jaren? We'll be back with more Players Only in a minute.
Thursday, we learned the starters for the All-Star game next month in Charlotte. No major surprises for either East or West. In the Western Conference, Steph Curry, James Harden, of course, Paul George, Kevin Durant, and the leading vote getter, LeBron James. The reserves come out Thursday on TNT. The coaches will cast the votes that count, but helpfully, we're here to make our choices as well, in case the coaches aren't sure. Actually, they've probably already cast the votes.
Helpfully, we are here. to
Helpfully.
make our
That's-
choices.
we're-
I don't
we're-
know helpful to whom, but
We're really a service. We provide a service here on NBA TV, right?
That's dangerous. Very dangerous.
We're here to pitch in wherever we can.
Yes.
All right, so here's who we chose for the other 7 spots in the Western Conference. And there's some disagreement, maybe more disagreement than I would have predicted. We all agree on Anthony Davis, if he's available to play, Nikola Jokic, Damian Lillard, and Russell Westbrook. I went DeRozan, Karl Anthony Towns, and Klay Thompson. Czar, you've got LaMarcus Aldridge, as does Griff. You both have Rudy Gobert. And Czar, you have Donovan Mitchell. Griff went with Drew Holiday. Please explain yourselves.
Coach, I'll go first.
Okay.
So the reason I've got Drew Holiday in that last spot versus Klay Thompson is that I think Drew has been very quietly since last season one of the most underappreciated stars in our league. He plays both sides of the ball with equal passion. He's been essential for them and really their most consistent player. They've had to play 9 games to this point, or he's had to play 9 games to this point without AD. I think they had a lot of change from the time that Boogie left the lineup, and all that's happened is Drew has consistently gotten better and better and better. Right. And I feel like now's the time to reward that.
Well, there are names that were tough for me to leave off in that spot. You know, Klay Thompson is a name you might consider. Doncic, if you want, in that position.
Yeah.
And then you could consider DeRozan also in that position.
Who I did.
Okay, so for me, I thought the resurgence all of a sudden after the really difficult start that Utah had, and then when you looked at the imbalance in home and road schedule, it was like at some point they got a lot of home games coming up here. And this guy, I thought, was responsible for kind of leading the charge to get them back to the type of team they were at the end of last season.
I went with DeRozan. I think he's been their best player over the course of the season so far, and the added playmaking duties are impressive to me. In fairness to me, I picked Karl-Anthony Towns before the Timberwolves were swept in the home-and-home by Rudy Gobert and the Utah Jazz. I don't know if that would have changed my vote or not, but I think he's been really effective since the Jimmy Butler mess was sorted out in Minnesota. And Klay Thompson has been, after the early season slump by his standards, has been pretty great here the last 6 weeks. And to me, he's just one of those guys, a two-way player who's just an all-star. Like, unless he's terrible,
but let me ask
he's
you,
an all-star.
What about Karl-Anthony Towns from game 1 up to game 30 or whenever the Butler thing
Not
and
as
coaching
good.
was
Yep.
replaced? What about those games? Because now they're 2 games below 500 as a team.
Not as good.
Okay.
Clearly.
So does that make you an all-star?
Well, I mean, it's the same argument like for Drew Holiday, for instance. If you were to think about where they are in the standings and whatnot, they're not good enough. But he has played at an all-star level for much of the year.
To me, it's got to be the majority of the season that you've played thus far up to the balloting ending. And then I also look at records. Are teams winning? Because if you're an all-star player, shouldn't you help your team?
You should be affecting your team winning. I agree with that. And so almost, I think everybody I picked aside from Towns is on a playoff team.
And I think that's why Klay Thompson not being on my team is the hardest, because I don't think it should just be that you've played well in the majority of the games.
Sure.
I think you have to play both sides of the court. And I think not having Klay be on the team is very difficult for me.
Yeah.
And if we're picking players I would rather have, I might rather have Klay than several people that we're going to have in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
But
that's not the question.
Right. But I think relative to Drew Holiday, relative to Towns, relative to Donovan Mitchell, these are all guys that are carrying teams to various different degrees, and that really matters. I think for me, leaving Klay off was more difficult than anybody else because I think defensively he's essential to what they do.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the Eastern Conference. Blake Griffin will return to the game for the first time as a Piston. Kemba Walker is a first-time starter. They'll be joined by Kyrie Irving, Joel Embiid, and leading vote getter Giannis Antetokounmpo. They all made the starters cut. Our reserves, I have not seen yet. From you guys, I know who my reserves are.
I hid mine out, to be honest. I didn't want you to see them.
Well, I'm excited.
That's all right. I can tell you this, though. The picture of the West All-Stars featuring 2 guys that left from the East to the West within the last year sure makes the West look awfully deep. I mean, those are 5 MVP candidate finalists all in one image. That's an amazing starting lineup.
And likewise, the East was very difficult to find enough names in the end.
It was.
It was. I got through the first 5 of my reserves, and then the last 2 was kind of a toss-up between 4 or 5 different guys in the Eastern Conference because of what I'll call parity among performers.
Ooh, very well nuanced
So far.
parity.
Thank you
I
very
like
much.
that.
We all agreed Bradley Beal, Blake Griffin, Victor Oladipo, and Ben Simmons should be reserves. Griffin's already he's going to make it for sure. Kyle Lowry, Nikola Vucevic, and I picked Spencer Dinwiddie, even though he's hurt now, over D'Angelo Russell as my Nets representative. You guys went respectively Lowry, Pascal Siakam, Chris Middleton, Jimmy Butler, Vucevic, and Chris Middleton. I loved Middleton for the All-Star game last year, but I think he had a better argument to make.
Probably did.
But based on the record and the fact that he's been a good player for them, I have no issue with that.
Yeah, Siakam, for me, I thought this young man has just taken huge steps in becoming a better player in the NBA. And, you know, their record for the team, obviously, there are a number of guys there that have done a very commendable job. So I just like watching him the whole time and how I think he's upped his game. I thought he deserved that responsibility. Two guys that I left off that I really wrestled with. D'Angelo Russell, okay, has been good for the last month or so. He's been good. But in the beginning, okay, you had a guy, Dinwiddie, who played a heck of a thing, you know, season up to that point. So I was like, well, does 1 month worth make you an all-star player?
Right.
And I've said all along with D'Angelo Russell, he has to become more consistent to be a legitimate big-time player, and I'm waiting to see that. He's done it for a month now. Vucevic, love what he can do, love his talent.
Yep.
Why is Orlando 10 games below 500?
I don't know.
I
don't know. I went with Dinwiddie over Russell for that reason, by the way, because he's been the guy they've gone to at the end of games more often than not. In fact, you remember early in the season there were times when Russell wouldn't even be on the floor at the end of close games for the Brooklyn Nets.
You know, it's interesting. So to answer your question, Vucevic in 10 games under 500, the reason is because he's their best playmaker.
Right.
You're going to be 10 games under 500 when your best playmaker is a center and you don't have other players around him making ancillary plays. So I think they are a few steps away from being highly competitive. I think they have a very clear theme, but what Coach Clifford has done is really run everything through Vooch in much the same way to a lesser degree than Denver has around Jokic.
Yep.
And so I think the fact that Vooch has that kind of skill set makes him really intriguing. The other reason I wanted to make sure he's up there because he's a big trade target. Just to make sure everybody understands. I want to lead into our trade deadline programming with that name in everyone's mind.
Intriguing is a good word because he figures to be intriguing to a lot of teams.
No question.
Next week when the trade deadline happens. There you go. I think we've solved this. We've worked all this out.
Helpful. That's what we were.
Helpful. LeBron James will get the first pick in the draft, of course. The captains have to start with the starters, then they can go to the reserves. So who is LeBron picking first?
So I'm not allowed to say Anthony Davis, right?
Because he can't, because that would be the...
I would probably say...
that would be the intriguing answer,
I wonder if it would be a point guard that he may have played with once before in his career. Or could it be Kevin Durant, who he has great respect for? I'm going to go Durant.
You're going to go Durant, okay.
Did he pick Durant first last year?
That's why I thought he did last year.
I don't remember.
So that's why I went that way.
That's interesting. I'm going to say that it's going to be one of those guys from the Western Conference photo. I'm going to take Steph Curry as his first pick.
I'm kind of leaning that way myself.
Yeah, I think he's intrigued by the notion of playing with someone who shoots the ball that way from that deep in an all-star game.
Right.
Because it literally could be dribble handoff from 40 feet, and those could be some fun assists to get.
Yeah. Cannot pick Anthony Davis. That would be fun.